Welcome back to The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network. As you know, my name is Jamira and Burley, and I am here with my amazing co-host, Brea Baker. And as the holiday season ramps up, we want to ask serious questions about how we spend our dollars and whether or not we should be spending at all. Should we be taking this moment to pause and explore the ways in which our money can be used to speak to politicians and to those in power about how we actually want our country to be run using the power of our dollar?
Yeah. This year we saw record-breaking sales during Black Friday and Cyber Monday, which is like, what? But instead of shopping, more people are asking themselves, is joining this frenzy even worth it? Especially when these big retailers have history of supporting policies and power structures that just go against everything that we stand for. Racial justice, fair labor, community wealth. What if instead of fueling that system, we put our money towards small businesses, mutual aid, community projects, hell, our own savings? Like, that's what we're going to explore in this episode.
Exactly. Like ways in which boycotting big box retailers enables for us to make really conscious decisions and choices for our money, to enable for real long lasting economic solidarity and resistance at a time where voting and the use of our dollar or the power of our dollar are some of the very critical ways in which we can show and flex power. But before we do that, we are going to explore some of the top headlines right now, and then we'll come back and explore that topic more in depth.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to tie it to the boycott, I just wish I could boycott this entire country, the gun industry. Like, I already boycott them because I don't frequent. But this past weekend, there was a mass shooting in Stockton that hit close home for me because a dear friend of mine was there and was shot and injured. Thankfully, she's still alive. But 4 people, including 3 children and a 21-year-old, were killed at a family event and a child's birthday party in Stockton, California. It was such a devastating moment to like see it come back, because again, this is a child's birthday party at a community banquet hall that ended with so many people's lives being forever changed. So many families having to say goodbye to people who haven't even hit their 18th birthday. I mean, it is just heartbreaking to realize that this is still so normalized for us. And this is in a state that does have stronger gun legislation, that does have the more progressive things. But regardless, we're seeing that the culture in the country means that we're all susceptible to this violence.
Yeah, I mean, and let me say this, guns are the problem. Guns are the problem. Are there other issues that perpetuates the use of guns in acts like this? Sure. But access to guns is a uniquely American problem. We don't see 40,000 plus people dying in a country outside the US because of access to guns. We see that here in America, and hundreds of thousands more are being injured by guns. Like, that is uniquely a part of the American culture. And unfortunately, I only see this continue to escalate as the economic constraints continue to, hold people hostage in our communities. And to your point, while this current shooting happened in California, we know that the access to guns are sometimes easier than getting access to healthcare. And if politicians don't start really thinking around how do we limit the flow of guns, how do we limit who gets access to guns, we're going to continue to see more mass shootings in places like birthday parties, movie theaters, churches. There is nowhere safe in America where guns haven't reshape the way in which we view safety and view our ability to move throughout our country without feeling that our lives are constantly at risk.
Exactly. So, say that.
Praying for the victims and hoping that they, catch the perpetrator who conducted this mass shooting. But 11 people were injured, 4 dead, three of them being children at a birthday party. Just absolutely devastating. Unfortunately, which means... I'm sorry, say that again.
Oh, just seeing the GoFundMe's pop up too. It goes back to what you said. It's easier to get a gun than healthcare, because now these families are like having to pay for medical care or funeral expenses and with resources that they didn't have. And all because someone, again, decided that a child's birthday party was the right time and place to do whatever they had to get off their chest. It's just sickening. But what's your headline? I hope it's better than mine.
No, this is America after all. And I hate to even move on from that topic, but we'll definitely have to do a larger deep dive into that. But as you all know, real IDs have been on the rise and has been a national requirement for the last, I think, 2 years. They've been trying to push this new policy out, and they've constantly delayed due to the fact that a lot of millions of Americans still do not have a quote unquote real ID, which we all know is just a quick money grab by the federal government. Or by the state governments, right? Because those who need a real ID have to produce documentation that have already been facilitated by the federal government, like birth certificates and social security cards and having a picture ID, right? All of those things you have to present to the DMV for them to approve you for a real ID. So because of that, the FAA is now going to slap travelers who do not have a real ID with a $45 fee for showing up to the airport without having that ID. So I'm sorry, I said the FAA. I actually meant the Transportation Security Administration, so TSA. Which sometimes is mistaken for FAA. They will be now.
They're all like, what is this even? What?
Well, that's one of the problems with the U.S. government, is right. No one understands how it works, who is overseeing what. But yeah, it's the TSA is now going to be slapping passengers. How they, in fact, are going to enforce that fee, I don't know, because at no point when you engage with TSA, is there anywhere to pay? So now they're going to be implementing like paying systems. Is that going to hold up the lines? Is that going to make folks making their flight that much more harder? So yeah, I mean, it's just a prime example that we continue to create so many barriers to entry for folks to do what is supposed to be like a civil right and something in order to like your freedom of mobility within this country. Right. But now you have everything from CLEAR to TSA to PreCheck to global entry and now real IDs. It's like, at what point is it too much?
Yeah. No, like you said, definitely a money grab, and a prohibitive one, because now doing this right before the holidays feels so strategic, and like punishing people for not having that ID when they do have other IDs. It's just like you need a million different forms of identification, and none of it's easy to get, especially depending on it's just this is so frustrating. I really hate this.
Yeah, it's the American way. How can we suck more and more money out of you to keep you exactly where into the status in which you were born into? They make it very hard for people to move. To have upward mobility in every way. There's a charge everywhere. America,
right, exactly.
Like everywhere you look, to even leave your house, it feels like you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars. So fun times for the holidays. So anyone's traveling, hopefully you have your real ID on you, or your passport. I think your passport suffice as a real ID as well, in order to travel. Otherwise, you will be slapped with a $45 fee at the gate. So fun times.
Well, listen, let me make sure I'm information, me and my household information. I ain't trying to pay none of those fines and give the government.
I mean, I'm such a Virgo where I'm like, I'm going to be denied if I don't show up with a real ID. So I definitely have a real ID. Because I got places to go. And
we'll get to this, but like, I don't even know if I do. I think I do because I've had my driver's license updated in the last couple of years, and I think they
that doesn't mean anything. Just because you had it updated, you actually have to supply additional identifying documents to support your real ID, and it will have a state-specific logo at the top of the ID that didn't exist before. So you might have a real ID, but if it's
but thanks for saying that, because I'm definitely, as soon as we get off, going to look at my driver's license, see if I have it, and if not, we're all traveling with our passports to go within the country. Who cares? Wow. Informative though. Thank you for that, Jamira. On continued, what is this country? 50 Cent has a new documentary about Diddy out, with never before seen footage from the days before his arrest and the trial and things of that nature. Diddy is trying to squash it and putting out cease and desist records through letters to his lawyers, through the claims that the footage is being used in ways that he didn't sign up for. But the documentary is out, and from what I've seen, and also from what I'm hearing from friends, it is definitely damning and definitely continues to show the side of him that we all now know to be who he is. And it's mind-blowing to realize just how long he was allowed to operate through the guise of this just being like a fun, silly personality, as opposed to, he's actually like a vile human being. But yeah, it's a 4 episodes documentary on Netflix. It's called Sean Combs, the what is it? Sean Combs' The Reckoning is what it's called.
I have seen the trailer. It's
yeah.
You know,
It's
what is 50 Cent's sign? I need to know because he's one of the most pettiest people I have ever witnessed.
No, literally one of the most pettiest. And also, to be honest, here's the thing about it is that while I'm glad the documentary is out there, and in addition to it having footage of Diddy,
he's a cancer. 50 Cent is a cancer. That makes so much sense.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. That so tracks my first answer. Anyway, but here's the thing, though I'm glad the documentary exists, 50 Cent has his own fucked up stuff that he navigating, and the way that he treats women, the way that he treats people who work for him, the like beefs that he gets into and the violence he's part of. So it's definitely feeling like the pot calling the kettle black. But nonetheless, I am glad that it's out there because in addition to having footage of Diddy, it also has key interviews with people like Aubrey from Danny Lee Kane, sex workers who were a part of these freak-offs, other celebrities who've been witness to the violence. And so it's interesting to me. It almost feels like they got more people to come on the record for this documentary than people to testify for the case, which is its own thing. But yeah, definitely a documentary that I think people should watch to continue to understand like how violence like this goes unchecked for so long, and what actually Diddy is accused of, even beyond the like formal criminal charges that he was found guilty of.
Yeah. It's definitely a story that needs to be told. Well, whether or not 50 Cent is muddling the waters by being the one to tell it.
Yeah.
Debatable, but yeah. Are you planning to watch it when it comes out?
Oh yeah, for sure. I just think that it's so, I'm just so surprised, I guess, that Diddy not just was as famous as he was, because we've seen this with other people like Harvey Weinstein or whatnot, but was also just so beloved by people who, or I guess not beloved, but people just like weren't willing to check that behavior, who also have power. I mean, like there are so many jokes about it.
Well, that's what we talk about, like the fact that these individuals, right, whether you're talking about P. Diddy or Bill Cosby or Weinstein, or you're talking about like R. Kelly, right? These folks existed in an ecosystem of people who were yes men to them, right? Who enabled and were co-conspirators with them, like people booking flights for R. Kelly victims, booking hotels with underage girls. Like, so these things would only happen and be possible with rape culture being what it is, and in all of the institutions around them that enables for that behavior. Because you look at P. Diddy and you're like, this went on for 3 decades plus. Like 3 decades plus, multiple victims across multiple state lines, right? So, and all of the people who maybe didn't help facilitate or cover it up, but they didn't say anything. Right? They knew what was happening right in front of their faces and they still refused to say anything. And all of that contributes to the rape culture that we see within this country, because in many cases, women are disposable. They're not treated. They're not protected in the ways in which we claim they are. And they're seen as, something to be used and discarded. And that is more evident the more powerful the man is in every single case. So true. Which is again is why I need to watch this and really like internalize this so that we can, we just gotta get better at seeing it in action and nipping it in the bud earlier on. So and the role that parents have, right, in raising better sons, right, to be able to not only not do these things, but also to hold their friends accountable when they see these things happening.
Yeah. Preach.
Right, that is support. So the last headline that we have for you today is the Trump administration, unfortunately, is admitting in plain sight that they are conducting what every legal expert across the board has said are war crimes. The Trump administration, in its effort to go to war with Venezuela, have conducted these these drone strikes. They have now conducted, I believe, 20 drone strikes, killing over 80 people, because they are saying that these boats are appearing to be used to transport drugs, even though they have presented no evidence to corroborate these claims. And also what they're doing is a total disregard for US policy and international law. There is no due process in Trump targeting random boats off the Caribbean and doing airstrikes on them. Many victims families have come forward and said that their loved ones were just traveling home or on vacation. And the Trump administration has now come out and said that they gave the order for these boats to be struck down. And Pete Hetz, what is his name? Pete
Hexworth or something?
Hexworth? No, it's like Pete Hetz, something like that. The Secretary of War.
Pete Hegseth, yes.
The Secretary of War, as they're now calling it, apparently is being, many folks are saying that he himself gave the direct order. They are now walking that back and saying that a general within the military gave that order, throwing him under the bus. But these things, I want to remind folks that if you are a person in the military, an active duty member of the military, you are a member of the Trump administration. Just because you are given an order, if it's an illegal order, you are responsible. You will be held accountable. Following orders is not a legal defense. And I think we're going to see that come to manifest itself after this administration is over, when we see so many people being held accountable for the decisions that they made while being a part of this administration and allowing themselves to be used as a tool for war. 80 people have been killed in Trump's efforts to, stoke fear about illegal guns and illegal drugs coming into the US. But at no point is this being addressed, while at the same time he is giving the leader of Honduras a blank check and saying, we're not going to hold you for your war crimes and for bringing illegal drugs and supporting cartels who have brought illegal drugs into the US. So it's just not making sense. And we know why.
Thank you for saying the "and we know why" part. Nothing that the Trump administration or Trump does ever makes sense, except in the context of the fact that he wants to make this a country by and for aggressive white men. And so everything is like designed around aggression and just like hyper toxic masculinity and doing what I want when I want to do it and asking questions later, if at all. And it's such a scary thing to see, because I don't see the Republican Party pushing back and insisting that this is not, the way we're like, this is not us. Like they're just kind of like, I guess it's us. And like, what does that mean for the future of our elections? That even when it's not Trump running for office, that it's going to be someone following in that lineage of, we've got to put the iron fist down whenever we can. And Lynn, like you said, we have, hundreds of thousands of people who work for this administration who are accepting these orders without stopping to think about not just the legality, but the morality of it all. It's scary hour over here. It is scary hour over here, which is scary.
And also America likes to pretend like we are always the victim. We have the largest military force in the world with all of our allies combined. Like we have bases everywhere. we are the antagonizer, I promise you, in most cases, more than not.
Yeah. Which is also why it's like, we don't need to funnel any more money into this empire and machine. And though you might say, well, what do these corporations, what does Target have to do with the Trump administration? These corporations are, number one, funding and lobbying with these elected officials, with these politicians, but they depend on the policies that these politicians put forth around tariffs and around trade deals and around what is and is not FDA approved and all of those things to be able to continue making money at the profit margin that they are. So it is absolutely tied when we say, people have said online for quite some time that America is just like 3 corporations in a trench coat. And it's so true. And so whether we continue to feed money into those corporations does, decide what this administration and what this government is allowed to continue to do, or what they realize is, okay, this is becoming too unprofitable and we have too much pressure from these CEOs and executives to back down. So I'm excited to dig more into this boycott conversation because it's all interconnected.
So with that being said, we're going to take a quick break. As reminded, you are watching The Other Side of Change only on the Black Star Network, and we'll be right back.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase, and I'm here with a very important message. We are at a turning point in the Black community where we must have equity in the apps we use that scale to billions of dollars. But this time, we own the infrastructure, we own the culture, and we shape the future. And Fanbase is the future. Fanbase combines the free functionality of Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube into an all-in-one platform built for the evolution of social media and monetization. With over 1.4 million users, that's real proof that we are shifting the conversation of tech ownership and equity for creators. So right now, I want you to go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. The minimum to invest is $399. That gets you 60 shares of stock in Fanbase at $665 a share. This marks a turning point in Black ownership of social media. If we don't take this opportunity to own social media right now, we will always be customers to our own creations. And that can't go on. So once again, go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. We must own the platforms where our voices live, our stories matter, and where our culture drives the world. Thank you.
Want to know a dirty secret about America's economy? Inflation can actually help make it look better than it actually is. And that was made super clear on Black Friday. Folks bought less this year because they are struggling with rising prices, but those rising prices actually made sales look stronger. Okay, let me explain. Let's say last year you bought these 10 presents, which cost you a total of $100. Now, this year, because of inflation, those same presents cost you $120. So you decide you can't afford all of that, and you're going to buy 9 people gifts this year, costing you $108. So your holiday spending rose 8%, even though you bought 10% fewer presents. Let's zoom out. And now you can start to see how inflation benefits the broader economy. Salesforce, Bank of America, and others that track holiday shopping show that people are pulling back on the number of items they buy, even as they're spending more to buy those gifts. And because consumer spending makes up 70% of America's economy, that increased spending fuels overall growth. So it might be a very Merry Christmas for America's economy, even if you're making some really hard choices this holiday season.
Welcome back to The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network. And let's start with the numbers. I mean, you saw the video that we played. Right now, Black Friday and Cyber Monday are still huge. According to 2025 data, U.S. online sales on Black Friday reached a record $11.8 billion, which is up 9.1% from last year.
Yeah, I mean, and for 2025 Cyber Monday, estimates say that online sales could reach as high as 14.2 billion, with another increase from last year. This means just one weekend, billions of dollars are spent, often supporting large corporations, global supply chains with long histories of labor exploitation, the racialization of marketing, the environmental harm, and the price gouging. We've seen that firsthand.
Yeah. On the one hand, I'm really surprised to see these numbers spike, especially considering there's so much economic stress that most Americans are under. People are being laid off. The tariffs have made things super expensive. But for all of those reasons, it's why people are seeking out these sales to alleviate the financial pressures they're under. But regardless, that amount of money directed by people's choices, because it's still a choice to spend money on these days, it does have real power. When activists and communities are calling for a boycott of Black Friday and Cyber Monday, not as a trend, but as an ongoing consumer conscience movement. What could that achieve if we all align? I mean, there's history here. Black communities have long used boycotts as tools for justice, and successfully so. With today's rising inequality, corporate consolidation, and systemic injustice, this strategy is more important than ever if we can all get in lockstep with it.
Yeah. But here's the catch, right? Retail is not the same. Some companies respond while others do not. Recent boycotts have had mixed results. For example, in 2025, economic blackout targeting big retail reportedly had little to modest impact. In some cases, sales even rose or stayed the same. This shows how deeply rooted the systems are. And yet choosing not to spend is more than just choosing to or causing a little loss for a company or for product. It sends a message to corporations and policymakers that consumers, especially those in marginalized communities, are not just economic units. We are political actors with value, and we express those values through how we spend our dollars and the way in which we vote.
Yes, exactly. And there's another factor at play with what we're seeing right now, which is inflation, the cost of living, and instability. I mean, recent surveys show that many Black Friday shoppers are more cautious than before, even though deals are available, which is raising a question. For people already stretched thin, could boycotting also be a form of self-care, right? Like refusing to overspend, refusing to overconsume, refusing to support a system that doesn't support us. This is how we pour back into ourselves.
Yeah, and when we talk about like moral economy and community accountability, the real question is, what does your dollar do? Where does it go? Does it go to big box stores, private equity firms? Does it go to the global supply chain or to local Black-owned businesses, community-run co-ops, mutual aid networks? What if Black Friday became a choice or a chance to rebuild our communities instead of just buying more for the sake of buying more?
Yes, we need that more than ever. I mean, as one organizing group put recently, this holiday weekend, let's skip the companies that are undermining democracy and instead support businesses that are affirming our humanity. That's what a radical reimagining of holiday economics could look like. And not just of holiday economics, but of our communities. Like you said, if the money that I'm spending on hauls and like shopping runs to Target is now going to mutual aid, my community is better off. The issues that I care about are being better served. I'm not waiting for anyone else to be the change that I can be. And that is the kind of mindset shifts that we need more than ever.
Yeah, and that's a great point. Like, I think a lot of people feel so overwhelmed by the state of the world or what's possible or what power they have that they don't see the impact or the power that boycotts have had in the past and can have right now.
Yeah.
Most folks will think it's naive to think that you can change the way a corporation can work by boycotting, but we know consumer behavior has shifted over time. If thousands, if not only tens of thousands or more people commit to not fueling the machine and instead channel those resources back into our community, that changes the balance of economic power. But it takes coordination, as you mentioned, it takes vision, it takes consistent action. We know the boycott that's happening right now with Target is one of the most successful boycotts since the bus boycott of Montgomery, Alabama, right? Like, we've seen it happen in real time when we all collectively and to some extent provide resources to enable for folks to go elsewhere. And that might mean driving a little further. That might mean not being able to get everything you want at one time and having to go to multiple stores. But eventually they will listen because we've seen it happen before.
And also the inconvenience is not that inconvenient. Like, we'll get into this when we come back, but I think a lot of the critiques that people have of boycotts and not having enough alternatives, or I need this, or I need that, is like, or are you conditioned to think that you need these things? Are you conditioned to think that you need to buy everything in one spot, as opposed to the fact that the quality
or that something should come within 24 hours, right? Like, we've been conditioned to believe that if it doesn't come within 24 hours, like, we're up in arms. But we used to wait weeks for stuff to arrive to our home.
And if what you're buying is not life-saving medication or something that your child needs to survive, why do you need it that fast anyway? Like, I think it's an important reprogramming of our minds to think about how we spend money and what we have decided we need versus is a luxury, because a lot of the things we've come accustomed to are luxury. So anyway, I'm excited to spend more time digging into what the naysayers bring up and how we can lean into these strategies more. But we will be right back after this short break.
supremacy is, quote, the most persistent and lethal threat in the homeland.
The greatest terrorist threat to the homeland is the homegrown violence stream, including hate crime committed on behalf of some kind of white supremacist ideology.
They are coming after everything in Black America. MAGA and Donald Trump are specifically targeting Black America. They are going after the money. Attack Black Lives Matter. Attack critical race theory. Attack woke, DEI. MAGA wants to defund Black America. This is a perfect example of their desire to completely degrade and de-emphasize Black people.
Welcome back to The Other Side of Change, of course, only on the Black Star Network. Before the break, we dug into the latest boycotts and how consumer behavior can be an important vehicle for change. Now we want to go a step further and continue talking about how to shift what we consume, how we consume it, and hear from the movement leaders and experts on how our dollar can be leveraged all year round. To kick us off, I want us to listen to what community organizer Latasha Brown has to say about this and about how this is a movement, not a moment.
And we ain't buying it. We're not standing with any company, right? These three are just the beginning. They're not the end. Those other companies as well, we've been asking people to hold their money, to not support and shop with companies that do not align with the values that we believe that supports our communities, including these other companies. These three companies just happen to be the companies that we decided that because of what was happening, because we're seeing the egregious nature, that we would focus on those three companies.
And so, oh my God, I love Latasha. I
love her too.
I know, right? She always gets right to the point. No mince words, no filler words. Yes. Provides like a true perspective and facts in a way that I think is really digestible for the average consumer. And it reminds me that, online conversations critiquing the boycott often ask, when are we allowed to go back? But why do you want to go back, right? What if the answer was we don't? Right? We don't, and we never have to. What if when companies show that their actions have changed and that they don't value us, we simply stop making excuses for them. We simply refuse to spend our money with them for good, right? Because if we have to tell them to value us, if we have to tell them to see us as for human beings and that our the issues impacting our lives are worth talking about, why would we want to associate with them at any point within our economic development?
Exactly. It's like we're in this like Stockholm syndrome situation where we feel held hostage by these big corporations when we do have options. We are not, elementary school kids and the bully is taking our lunch money after beating us up. Like we have options on where to spend our money, and we got to get creative about it. Boycotting a store or business that you used to shop with frequently, it can be difficult at first because, especially with the conditioning that we're up against under capitalism, it's almost like quitting an addiction. Truly, it's like you go through like the withdrawals of it all in the beginning, but then there's this period where you're reminded of how many options we truly have. And we talked about this before the break, but I just want to like bring up my own personal example. I remember in 2019 when I decided to stop shopping with Amazon. I don't even remember what was the precipitating event, but I was just like, this is not a company that Jeff Bezos is not someone I want to get more of my money from. If he's going to be a trillionaire, it's not going to be because of Brea Baker. And initially it was so hard to do. And I remember being like, man, I need to buy, I think it was something like window shades or something like that. And I was like, where does people buy that from? And my dad was like, there are stores like just designed around windows and doors and like things that you need for your home. And we're so used to going to these one-stop shops. And you used to go to a butcher for your meat, someone else to get your produce, someone else to get the carpentry things around the house, somewhere else to get decor, somewhere else to get books. It was not always that you had this one-stop place that you got everything that you needed from.
And allowing someone to kind of, and allowing one company to kind of bombard the market and take over all of those different industries has not made our communities better. Like your ability to have more convenience has actually hurt the small mom and pop stores within your neighborhood that actually would have provided more economic opportunity, like jobs and resources, and made our communities safer versus shipping them off to Jeff Bezos where he can have a $50 million wedding. You know what I mean? Like on the backs of people who are now suffering.
Exactly. And I think that was a thing that was like a beautiful part of the rediscovery, which I think people who critique boycotts underestimate how beautiful it would be to, at the time I was living in Brooklyn, to like find a place online, walk into the store and have someone be so excited to have this customer, to have someone who is an expert on the thing that they're selling, because it is something that, you know, they focus on and they specialize on, and to be able to walk me through my options. And like, it was nice to actually search for brands that align with my values, to realize that I was getting better quality and a better experience. And I felt better about where I was spending money, knowing that, hey, they're gonna, like, this is supporting, you know, this individual who I now know as a human being. Like, I know nothing about Jeff Bezos outside of his $50 million wedding and his fiance going into space with Gayle King. But like, I knew something about, you know, the Brooklyn shop owner who had started this business from scratch when he was 30 and now was passing it on to his grandson. It was just so much more intimate to realize that there are other ways for me to spend my dollar.
No, that's so true. And it makes me think about like every city that I've ever lived in, the communities that I love the most and like the places that I normally like put down roots in were in the neighborhood, going to the neighborhood stores, right? Whether that's the local coffee shop, the local yoga spot, like moving away from like these big industry, like plants, what I would call it, and actually getting to know those in your community. And to be honest, it feels good walking into the coffee shop and people knowing your order, right? It feels good knowing that you're purchasing from a company that is hiring locally and supplying jobs to those and are not shipping that money off to, you know, to activities that are against my moral compass. I love the idea of like, how do we reimagine different strategies from not only, you know, taking our money exclusively with Black owned businesses, but also investing in other marginalized companies for women and LGBTQ, people with disabilities. Like there are ways in which to kind of funnel that money to communities who need it the most. And also what if the conversation is we stop shopping altogether, right? Like we exist within a country where there's this over need for overconsumption. There is an article that came out, I can't remember what publication, talking about how, you know, people keeping their phones longer are wrecking the economy, right? The fact that people are keeping their phones until, it breaks down. Like, let's get back to that. Like, there's no need for folks to purchase $1,000 phone every single year. And that's being labeled as somehow hurting the economy versus like saying we exist within a society that perpetuates this need for overconsumption. What does that do for folks not being able to actually build a nest egg? What does that do for communities who are now fluttered with so much like environmental impacts because of the purchasing of cheap material and cheap clothes that are only being thrown away a year later? So I think that's my frustration with it all. But you know, that's why I think we need to really stop ourselves and say, do we really need it? And if we do really need it, are there alternatives to the big box companies that we can go to within our local community where we actually feel good about the purchase and not just feel like convenient that we got it in time? But here's a quick video on American shopping addiction.
If you've ever seen a shopping haul or unboxing video, you know that America loves to shop.
I did some shopping. You know, I haven't really uploaded a haul on this channel in a really long time, but to be honest, the shopping never stopped.
Shopping has never been easier. We no longer have to go to a store during limited hours, stock the aisles looking for a product, and then wait in checkout lines. Now with the click of a button, we have the freedom to shop for anything, anywhere, and at any time.
Every day is Christmas if you buy yourself stuff online.
Products are cheaper than ever, despite having to travel across the world to get to us, which means we often buy things without a second thought.
Yeah, you know, going back to what you said, I think it is so important to realize that the overconsumption is not just bad for our spending habits or the companies that we're fueling and putting our money into, but like you said, the environmental impact. Everything we're seeing in the Congo is really tied to our tech obsessions. Even in seeing that clip and seeing how much plastic we're using in the packaging of these massive hauls, and like how we're being influenced every time we go on social media to buy and buy and buy. And I think another, to go back to boycotts, another element of the boycotts that I have realized is I just save so much more money by realizing that these are things that I don't actually need. Like, there are some aspects of a boycott that are actually really difficult, where it's like, when we're talking about the Montgomery bus boycott, people had to figure out how to get to and from work, to and from
for over
school,
a year.
over a year. This
all
boycott
4 seasons, winter, summer, spring, fall.
Right. And that snow, like, and all of that. But these boycotts, not shopping at Target, I'm buying less face masks. I'm buying less skincare that's sitting under my sink. I'm buying less.
Can I just say something?
Yeah.
The bus boycott happened during Jim Crow South. So when people started walking, they were physically putting themselves in harm's way, right? Like,
no,
we are
for
not
real,
our
for real.
ancestors because those folks were
Truly
braver
harm's
than us.
way. No, actually, and that's a key part, because whenever I see people push back, like, I don't even, who told you to boycott Target anyway? And I'm gonna go in there when I want to, and okay, just like reveal yourself to be a clown. Like, I mean, there's easier ways to say that than doing this. I mean, we're asking you, hey, don't click buy. Like it's, the inconvenience is so not even that inconvenient. And it just blows my mind that people will still make excuses for it.
Yeah, and I can get, like, if Walmart happens to be the only store in your town. Okay, we're not talking about it. I am talking about the people who have access to a job, access to a car, access to transportation, that they are walking past a mom and pop store to go to a big box store. Those are the people I'm talking about.
No, for sure. But also, not for nothing, even in smaller communities because again, a Walmart becomes the only store in your community because they have monopolized and bullied their way into being that place. Yep. Amazon becomes your only or cheapest option or your fastest option because they've put other stores out of business. So recognizing that they're only your perceived only option because of these predatory policies. And so for the things that we do need, there are also other options. And I've also been forcing myself to get more creative about that, shopping secondhand and vintage, learning to make things myself, growing my own food, shopping with small farmers. Like,
you got chickens, right?
Options. Bro, we got the listen, and my family be coming to us like, please give me those eggs. Please give me, we had way too many potatoes and we were giving those away, way too many cucumbers. Like, there are ways to get around that. And so I think that, but for those who don't have chickens, who don't have family who hunt or whatever, like, you can still get crafty. My wife, Mariah, has gotten especially crafty. She DIYs everything for our household now. She's been like making so much of the decor so that we don't have to buy all this seasonal shit that we then throw away because it was so cheap.
Yes, okay, Mariah.
Like, it's just getting really cutesy around here, getting really, and like, there's a way to do this that's not, toxic white supremacist trad wife, but that is like, hey, sustainability. How can I lean into the fact that we have more talents and gifts than we give ourselves credit for? And the things that we're outsourcing to other people and spending money on that are badly made, poorly made, cheap quality plastics that are polluting our environment. Like, we can do so much better. I'm lucky to have friends like my sister knits. And so I'll ask her to make me a for the baby. My aunt makes shea butters, and like, it's just, we can get creative about this, swap ideas and products instead of depending on these massive corporations. And someone I love who does this really well, Leah Thomas, who also goes by Green Girl Leah. She is the founder of Intersectional Environmentalist, which is a great social media page. And she's been really digging into expressing that crafting can be a way to be more sustainable. So here's a quick clip of her talking about all of the ways that upcycling and recycling and shopping secondhand and getting crafty can be a way to express your values.
It's getting a lot harder to figure out what stores we should be purchasing from that align with our values, and I want to offer another solution to this problem. And it is, make stuff yourself and learn how to mend things and make things. Hear me out. Obviously, there's a lot of things that you will have to go to a specialty store to buy, but this year I started making a lot of things myself, and it's been really empowering, and you only need like a couple key ingredients to basically make soaps, makeup, candles, lots of things like that. So a lot of things that I probably would buy at a big store, I just make myself. Like, basically for the cost of like 2 candles, I got bulk ingredients and materials and can make like hundreds of candles, and I can customize the scents with essential oils. If I run out of like body butter or lotion or even makeup, I literally have, you know, all you really need is like coconut oil. You can use beeswax if you're not vegan. You can use shea butter, cocoa butter, etc. Get those ingredients straight up, and they're not that expensive, and you can make pretty much all of your skincare needs. I really think it's time for us to return back to the art of crafting and self-sufficiency, because to me, crafting and making stuff and doing it myself is honestly a way of resisting consumerism. In some ways, it's a form of like fighting against extractive systems or large corporations that don't share our values. So if you're wondering, like, I'm feeling really overwhelmed, people are telling me, don't shop here, don't shop here, don't shop here. Well, something that's relieved a lot of my anxiety and also makes me feel super empowered and connected with my ancestors is making stuff at home. So get crafty, DIY. I think it's time for us to learn how to mend again, sew again, and make a couple basic things again. I just got a stand mixer because I really don't feel like really kneading my dough, but I'm gonna start making my own breads. I make my own milk. It's so empowering, and there's so many things that you can make yourself.
Oh my God, I love Leah Thomas. I think she provides so much good insight, and also I think provides a really good gateway for younger minorities to understand the environmental implications for the ways in which we shop and consume within this country. And it's basically brings back, bartering. Like, can we get back to the times in which we bartered more? I saw something similar online where a hairdresser was offering free appointments for those who could trade services like nails, food, and even tattoos. I love to see the creativity and the cooperation and the cooperative economy that comes alive when we create pathways for people to believe that there are other options outside of Target and Amazon and Walmart. When we have family members old enough to remember a time where for them, they could actually barter between friends, share resources, have these communal meals in a way that, they got to know their neighbor down the street, right? They got to know the shop owner around the corner. And I want to get back to that because community is the only way we're going to truly survive this cluster of trash that we are currently consumed in under the Trump administration. If we build community, we live in a society that tells us that it's just about you, right? Pull yourself up out it by your bootstraps. It's so individualistic, and that's how they win. They want to isolate us to feel like the decisions that we make only impact us, when really it impacts our entire community and it impacts people who look like us and who doesn't look like us. And until we get back to investing in our communities, bartering, finding ways to share resources and invite people in, we are going to continue to be a victim of these big box chain companies who, want to just take our money and not really give a damn about how that impacts the communities that we live and work in. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. You are watching The Other Side of Change only on the Black Star Network.
They said the quiet part out loud. Black votes are a threat, so they erased them. After the Supreme Court gutted the Voting Rights Act in 2013, Republican legislatures moved fast. New voter ID laws, polling place shutdowns, purges of black voters from the rolls. Trump's Justice Department didn't stop it, they joined in. In 2018, his DOJ backed Ohio's voter purge system, a scheme that disproportionately erased black voters. Their goal, erase black votes and political power. Yeah, that happened. These are the kinds of stories that we cover every day on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Subscribe on YouTube and download the Black Star Network app. Support fact-based independent journalism that centers African Americans and the issues that matter to our community.
this conversation today shows that our power doesn't begin or end at the ballot box. Our power lives in our wallets too, and in our willingness to refuse complicity.
Yeah, so whether you choose to hit buy now this holiday or hold back, that choice is political. It says who you support, what systems you uphold, and what future you want to build.
Yeah. And I'm learning from you, Jamira, because you've been on your no spending spree for most of this year, to be honest. And I think we can all, follow suit. If you want to dig deeper, check out resources like the archive of past consumer boycotts, mutual aid networks, and Black-owned small business directories. There are so many of them, y'all. We have the internet at our fingertips. Let's use it. Let's support chain alternatives to big box retail, build community resilience, and most of all, let's make our spending reflect our values.
Yes, yes, yes. So you've been watching On the Other Side of Change only on the Black Star Network. Until next time, stay conscious, stay connected, and keep pushing.